Hey YouTube, welcome back to EXTCG, and today we will be starting our Set 1/Starter Deck revisits for Set 2. And as by popular demand on my Patreon, we are going to be starting with Starter Vegeta. So I hope you guys are excited. As per usual, we will have this video diving into that breakdown here, but then on my Patreon, you're going to see my personal list that I've been testing with as we get ready for North Carolina, as well as reasoning for my ratios, and then some untapped footage to let you guys know how it goes in terms of setup hands and whatnot. So with that being said, let's see if we can get the same amount of support for this video as we get for all of our videos. Boosting it over 100 likes would be amazing, and I hope to see your thoughts in the comments. So let's get into it. So first and foremost, we have to start off with the leader, and for these, I'm not really going to go into their specific effects and stats. I'm just going to have a general sense because I've done videos on videos. You guys can just check the last week and a half. We've gone over all these cards. But you got this Vegeta leader. So the cool thing about Vegeta is he's got a normal awakening, just 4 life. You know, he draws when he attacks. When he flips over, you're going to be at this point where every time you're at 7, well, when you're at 7 life, or sorry, 7 cards in hand, you can activate his ability to boost him up by 15k. This takes you from a base 20k to a base 35k, which is essentially going to apply pressure. The numbers are the most important thing here while you are facing this, and essentially the way that we're going to go into it is just looking at most leaders. When you go 15k over and you attack another 20k leader, they have to drop 20k to break that. That is a super combo at the best, and that is 2 cards from hand at 10k and another 10k at worst to break this attack. Now if you add something like a 10k combo, make him 45k, he's going to require literally 3 10ks to get over, or a super combo plus a 10k, and the pressure is astounding from there. So he makes very close to assured damage. Now the math can be thrown off when you're facing a leader that has 25k base, as Broly and Zamasu will be able to go up to 45k with just a singular super combo breaking this, or a 10k and a 5k to break this. So the numbers do change when you face the 25k leaders. You need to go a little higher, but this is where we are at. Once a leader awakens, it is very rough to face Vegeta because he's pushing very, very high numbers, and if your hand isn't already large going into his awakening turns, you're going to find out that you will run out of cards in hand very fast, keeping yourself alive. Also, because he can be a base 35k leader, he can be the cornerstone of a lot of tall shotguns, and that's what makes him exceedingly dangerous. So the first thing we're going to talk about are the cards that we get in this set that specifically pertain to him. And this is a Bulma right here we're starting off with. Essentially, it's a Harumaki for Vegeta. You're going to be able to play this card, and if you reach that 7 or less card in hand threshold when she is played, you're going to be able to give your Vegeta, any Vegeta, not just the leader, Vegeta battle card or Vegeta leader, a whopping 10k, which is going to change the math up quite a bit. Just in a vacuum alone, her playing herself, going down and just giving Vegeta a 10k boost, you can then swing with Vegeta after he's activated his activate main for 45k, combo this, making 55k, pushing through almost assured damage under most circumstances when that leader swing bangs. Now, the cool thing about Blue, that's something that you guys have to really understand, is that Blue has to have proper hand management. That is one of the biggest parts about this. Like for instance, let us say you are currently at 8 cards in hand, and you just have your Vegeta and no board and this card in hand with you know, like I guess 8 other cards in hand. 8 cards in hand, 7 other cards in hand. If somebody attacks your leader, you're probably not going to want to, like if it's the last attack of the turn, they are tapped out, they're swinging with their last attack, and it's for 1 damage, you probably want to combo out of that. Because what's going to happen is if they attack you and you're at 8 and you get hit and you go up to 9, right? You are then going to draw to 10, charge to 9, and unless you have a valid card that you can play out of your hand before you play this Bulma, you are over the threshold. So that's always something that you're going to want to pay attention to. Now, Bulma is kind of a weird example because usually you can play another card alongside a 1-drop, but we're going to talk about some things later. I'm going to go back into this logic to really hammer it home. So the next card that we have that's exclusive to Vegeta, actually, the other one wasn't, but this one definitely is. You have this Gotenks. Now this Gotenks is really cool because he can play out the 4-drop SR Gotenks from your starter deck pretty much on a increased curve. But the real cool part about this is that he is able to really change the math for things in hand. So for this instance, let's say you're playing this on curve. Let's say you were doing this as a 3-drop. The coolest part is playing, like going into your turn, you would, I believe, need to have 9 cards in hand opening up in your turn, like you're drawing 2-9. Because if you were going on 3 cards, what you could do is, if you're going on 3 energy, you could charge from 2 to 3, taking you down to 8 cards in hand. Tap 3 for this guy, attack for 20. After attacking for 20, you currently have 7 cards in your hand, because this goes to the 8th card. You activate his ability, returning him to the hand, and then playing your 4-drop Gotenks. Once you do this, you're able to activate Gotenks' effect to get a Goten and a Trunks youth back from your drop. So there is kind of levels to your hand management, because like I said, if you came in that turn and drove to 10, that combo is not available to you on curve. So you really do have to figure out how to best manage your hand. And the later you get into the game, the easier it's going to be, because your hand's naturally going to be low, so most of your effects will just fly anyway. But the beginning and the middle of the game, if you want your effects to pop off, you really do have to manage your hand. And the next card we have here is Vegeta, and this is probably the biggest addition besides the Bulma to your kind of Vegeta specific game plan. This guy is a 4-cost, he has a great 30k body, and the cool thing is on play you get to play Bulma with a cost of 1 from your hand. And this is going to be the first one where you have to start, well, I guess the next one, but this is one of the ones where you do have to pay attention to your hand. Like, for instance, I believe the height of what you can come into on that turn should be 10. 10 cards in hand is the maximum amount of cards you can have in hand to have an empty board, because in this format there's so much removal. So going into your turn 4 with an empty board is not highly unlikely, but 10 cards is the maximum you can have with this card, because his activate main is another 7-cost threshold. So think about it this way: you draw from 9 to 10 going into your 4th turn of energy. You tap 4, you play this Vegeta, you go from 9 to 8. Then this Vegeta allows you to play that Bulma for free. You play that Bulma, you go from 8 to 7. At this point, because on your play of Bulma, you only have 7 cards in hand, you can give your Vegeta leader, bam, 7k, or 1,000 power. I'm so weird with numbers this video. 1,000 power, 10,000 power actually. After you give the 10,000 power to that Vegeta, if Vegeta's already awakened, you then, since you're at 7 or less cards in hand, can activate his ability. At that point, you are able to then use this guy to plus this guy and Vegeta plus 5. And you can split out your amount of damage in the sense that this guy will become a 35 after he uses his own effect, his once per turn effect. You can attack with him, combo the Bulma for 10k, and that's a 45k swing. After which, you're allowed to swing with your leader for 50k, because your leader was a base 20 who went up by 15 through his own effect, 10k through Bulma, and then 5k through this effect. So this is able to provide pretty strong effects. At very minimum, he's going to boost your leader up to a 40k, because your leader will boost himself up to 35, and this guy will boost up another 5k, making a 35k swing and a 40k swing. But if you have the Bulma in hand, you can crank that up a notch to a 45k swing from this guy and a 50k swing from your leader. So he's absolutely pivotal. But the reason why I keep bringing up cards in hand is because being at 7 seems to be rough, and being lower than 7 is close to death. But you being a blue player, you really have to toe that line on keeping the correct number of cards. And like I said, if you get up to 12 cards in your hand in a turn, and then you use 2 of them, or you use 3 of them to defend yourself in the turn, you're drawing up to 10. And like I said, you charge down to 9, you play this card down to 8, you play a Bulma down to 7, and then all of your effects are alive between your Bulma, your leader, and this Vegeta. That is the type of math you need to go with into. Not taking damage that could push you over your thresholds. Not taking, and when you're rolling around with like high life, that could be a little harder, but you still have to make those choices and considerations throughout the time. So next, we're going to talk about one of the most pivotal cards coming into the blue color. No joke. This is the blue 3-cost Vegito, and he is just a monster. 3 cost, great. 25k is a great base, but when he comes in, he has a static threshold of 7 to make sure that everything is lowered by 1 cost. And on top of that, on play, you can bottom deck something that's 1 cost or less, which means it's a 2 cost or less if you have this guy's effect active as he comes into play. So using him while he's your 8th card in hand is generally the best point, meaning that going into the turn you want to curve out on him, you need to have no more than 9 cards after your draw. Very, very cool. Go into the turn with 8 cards, drop to 9, charge down to 8, play this card. He's a very, very good turn 3 card. He is bottom decking hits and Cauliflas and more, and against the red matchup, he's bottom decking, you know, all sorts of 2K or 2 drops in the yellow matchups. He is just a house, and even in the matchups of against blue, if you're playing against something like, you know, a Goku Black that needs these Zamasus on board, he can do work there. Now the cool part about this guy, he has a stacking effect. If you have 2 of them on the field and you have 7 or less cards, you're reducing everything on your opponent's side by 2, potentially making this guy a monumental just like boon in lowering things down. And he opens up so many plays in the game. On 6 energy, being able to play this guy for 3, and then bottom decking a 1-drop your opponent has, or even a 2-drop that they played, and then being able to tap your other 3 for Sickle to bottom deck a 2/5 cost or less is a devastating blow. 6 energy, get rid of 3 bodies while adding a 25k attacker. Yeah, nah, this guy is so snapped, and once you test with Blue more, you'll start seeing how snapped he is. Now we have got Zamasu fused. Very, very, very good card. I'm not sure if he has a place in this deck. You can kind of test it. He kind of slows down a deck, and I do believe that while he's a cool draw engine on his own, the main issue with him right now, I believe, is that he is extremely easily outed by both blue and red. Red will reduce him down to 0, blue will bounce or tuck him, and once you play this guy, if they bounce it back to your hand, there are very few times in lots of these matchups that can bounce, like, that you want to play him again. So it's a little weird. A lot of the times, you're just better off playing a 3 cost and then having Gallic Gun or Peel Off as support on top of that 3 when you're on 4 energy. So he's kind of weird. I think that later this card can find more value when other colors get big. We're probably getting black next set if I'm not mistaken, so we really need to see how the meta changes. I think this is a good card. I'm just not sure if he's right for Vegito, but I definitely don't think he's right for this format. Then you got Vegito. Vegito, secret rare, lots of people have been talking about it. I think there are some weird parts to him. I think that once again, like Zamasu, this is a card that's very, very good. I'm just not sure if it's very good now. Against yellow, he can be tapped down, and since his effect to untap himself happens on your turn, he is often left tapped. He can't untap himself, so he can be locked down very easily. 30k is a little bit harder to get rid of, but not impossible to get rid of. The second swing of this guy is a very scary against yellow, who will keep him tapped down, or red, who could reduce him down to a 15k when Gohan swings on him, and then swinging him for 25 with said Gohan. That's rough. You have to expend at least like a super combo in most cases, or 2 cards from hand to keep him, and you only had 7 if you attack twice with him. So 7 or 8. So this is like really, really rough for me to get behind right now. And I think that once again, just like how I said Zamasu, you're better off just playing a 3-drop and having Peel Off and Gallic Gun support. In lieu of this, you're better off playing Sickle or another 3-cost body and having Peel Off and or Gallic Gun, or both for support. So a little interesting here. Next, we are going to talk about the sponsors of this video. So, as you guys should know by now, I am sponsored by Mystic TCG, the coolest store in Missouri, one of the coolest in the United States. They do it all. They hold their own events, they hold their own locals, they sell all the product you could possibly want from a TCG store. They do pre-orders and sales, and they not only buy singles, collections, and prize cards, but they allow you to buy the same things as well. I mean, you're kind of buying collection card by card, but I digress. Go to the Facebook site and just like message Eden, the owner of the company, and see what he's up to. Whether he'll be at an event you'll be at, whether it be One Piece or Dragon Ball Fusion World or actual Yu-Gi-Oh, you can find him at plenty of events, and you can always make some easy cash if you got some hot cards. Use the code UNIXTCG in the description to get discounts off of his product. And then if you're above the border and you live in Canada, I've got G 3. They also hold their own events. They also hold their own like locals for all these games. They sell product. You can pre-order product. You actually have a thriving Discord where they have online events as well. So hop in on that to get your coolest TCG products if you live in Canada. And you can use the code UNIX to get 5% off your purchases. So yeah, I'd hop on that, either one. And then lastly, I am doing a whole lot in Universe X. We are streaming Kingdom Hearts over on Twitch and my YouTube channel for gaming, a full series playthrough. We're doing videos like this with companion videos on the Patreon, and I'm grinding myself into oblivion right now, but I love it. We've got so much content coming out on all fronts. We got a Dragon Ball channel we're trying to build up. I'm moving soon, so we're gonna have a new office where you guys can kind of just see a new backdrop and whatnot. And it actually looks like, due to like, you know, I've seen some stutters, I have some computer issues, I might need to get a new like rig for my recording. So I'm definitely on the grind to make sure I make that much money. So if you want to support me in any meaningful way, just explore Universe X and help me grow however you want to. Thanks, and let's get back to the content. So moving into the next part of cards, we really do have the Zeno 6-drop. It's a monster. It's a monster in its own right. And on top of it being a monster in its own right, like, this guy clears boards, but more importantly, he's one of the, well, not more importantly, also importantly, he's one of the only cards that can interact with a field card. So if your opponent is playing things like Cell or any future thing with a field card, or if Android somehow become like a viable list, we still need to do more testing with that. This guy will be able to interact with field cards, and that is a huge plus for him. But for the most part, when you're playing against Topku, they can get stuff back from the trash easily, the drop easily, and so that's that makes a really good, like, strong point for blue bottom decking a lot of cards. That is an inaccessible space. They will not get those cards back unless they draw it through their entire deck, and generally blue is going to be better at outlasting a deck than red is going the long distance. Their hand will dwindle while blue is operating on those conditions and just being generally strong as their hand dwindles. So Zeno is very good, and it being a 10k is just also just snapped. Another addition to the blue arsenal is Absolute Lightning, and we've talked about this a gajillion times. Just being able to pay 3 and just rip a card from your opponent's board, put it at the bottom of the deck, amazing. Your primary out to green bosses. Outside of that, it's mostly charge fodder. Not often will you be using this card. Every now and then may get you out of a pinch, but 3 is kind of expensive for getting rid of something that a lot of different cards will do. Sickle will do the same for 2 bodies for almost every case outside of green. And then you have a blast from the past. This guy right here, this Vegeta, is Savage. He is the starter deck Vegeta, but 4 cost is a very, very, very strong slot, mainly because it houses Kefla in red. Using Vegeta to bottom deck Kefla to make sure that it cannot be glimpsed back to hand is one of the strongest plays ever, while providing a double strike to potentially close out the game, especially if you've already forced through a singular damage. This card cannot be over, like, just glazed. Like, this card is just amazing. On top of that, you just hit a bunch of good targets in yellow. If you already have Vegito on the field, this guy can hit 5 drops, which is nasty. You will not know better vibes than when you tap 5 for a Vegeta and bottom deck your opponent's Golden Frieza, and then just look at them and then attack them with the 35k base that you may bump up. Chef's kiss. So yeah, this Vegeta, back in style. Then you've got the Gotenks in question. This is also from the starter deck. Really, he's just there to fish your Goten and Trunks cards. Now, whether or not you play enough Gotens, because Trunks, it's not hard to play enough Trunkses. 1-drop Trunks is the premier, you know, it's the draw card. It's the only draw card, 1-drop cantrip. But the Gotens, you really got to find a place to put them in. So if you want to play this Gotenks, yes, you do have kind of a combo power engine, but you gotta be a little careful because this is a costly engine. There's a lot of space in your deck that has to be devoted to this. And at this point, if you're running the new Gotenks, then you have probably 3 copies of him, no less, maybe 3 copies of this, and then you still need to run sufficient Trunks. That's already going to be around 12 cards minimum. At max, that could be like 14 cards. That's a lot of your deck just for, you know, a guy that's not really doing anything, a swinger, and some 10Ks. Just saying, just saying. And then you have the MVP baller, #1 shot caller, death and installer. This guy, Sinister Sickle, is that dude. There's so much, like I said, 4 cost is a massive number in this. If you're playing against Topku and they Kefla, you just have to survive going down to your 7 thresholds in the process most cases, and then sickle them right back. So help me put that at the bottom of your deck. Not to mention that now that we have Vegito, this card can hit 5Ks, and once again, if you thought Vegeta bouncing a 5K down the bottom of your deck, just wait, or 5-drop, just wait until you have Vegito on board. 3-drop Vegito and you sickle a golden Frieza and a 4-drop, you're just gonna like it's just, it feels good, makes your brain tingle. So this is just MVP. This is probably the best blue card in the game right now. Then you have Mai. Mai is always the Self-Awakener. However, I will give you guys hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I don't think blue needs to awaken this set. And in fact, your backside on a blue leader is essentially just like the emergency button. Like, that comes into play when the game goes long enough. You will do most of your work on the field, managing your opponent's field and controlling the game. So Mai, good card. Do we use it? I have my thoughts on it. You can always go to the Patreon to see deeper on that, because deck lists, for sure, deck lists will be over there. Zamasu has also gone up in priority. Zamasu is like probably top 5 blue cards in the set, mainly because you need ways to out Roshi in red and Bulma in yellow. Those cards cannot go unchecked. They will ruin your game. And even in the mirror, bottom decking a Pilaf prevents a Pilaf from being grabbed by a Pilaf later. So if your opponent doesn't ever combo off their Pilaf, so they try to leave them up for some combo power, a Zamasu to the face will be a godsend. This works against 3 out of the 4 colors of the game right now. And even in green, when you see your opponent play a 1-drop Goku, go ahead, rip the Zamasu. Play the Zamasu, put the Goku at the bottom of their deck, because that is one step closer to not having their Gohan Double Strike activated if they use it. It's the small things. Now, the next card we're going to talk about, and the final card, is the Pilaf. Pilaf is amazing. He's still good. Now, granted, Pilaf does not have the staying power that he used to, because like red will sneeze on 5k power and eradicate it from the board. Yellow can tap it down and attack it, but they're kind of wasting an effect at that point. Maybe not, maybe so. It depends on what they have access to. But the point is, Pilaf, getting back Pilaf, is still one of the dumbest things that blue can do. And quite often, you are using your play for the turn, whether it be a Vegito, whether it be a Sickle, whether it be an Absolute Lightning, and then you're spending the remaining of your energy on Pilaf. You always keep charging for the most part, because you can Zeno, keep Zeno up for power, play Pilaf, get Pilaf back, keep them both up. That's 20k on board if they don't clear it after being Zenoed. And after you get Zenoed, one of your most important things is establishing a board again, so you may not be able to remove those. It really depends. So yeah, we're going to move over into the closing, and we're going to tie this up just talking about where I think Vegeta stands. So rounding it off, I do think that blue is a good color this set. I do think that you have to kind of play it a certain way, in the sense that I think that blue does its best when it can control. Now, blue has started to really pivot into that control deck, and control decks need energy to operate efficiently. So a lot of blue decks thrive best when you don't rush to awaken, when you're not taking unnecessary damage, and you awaken when it's later in the game. And so what you're really getting is most blue leaders operate the same until the moment that they flip over later in the game, and it depends on what you want to do. Each blue leader does something different. However, Vegeta offers almost unparalleled damage. Once Vegeta flips over, it's time to like lock in, because he's taking out 2 cards out of your opponent's hand at a time. Most times you line up correctly with your shots, and that is very powerful. In a long game state where you've been grinding your opponent, decimating their cards to the bottom of the deck, you're going to be able to really make Vegeta's hits count the most. The new 4-drop Vegeta is a godsend. The Bulma pushes weight, and actually the Bulma is nice because the longer you stay unawakened, Bulma can actually really help you be a stronger leader. When you play Bulma, even unawakened, you're making your leader a 25k. And that Bulma is able to be gotten back with Pilaf being an Earthling, making a lot of good plays. So let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking about Vegeta, if you guys have been cooking up with him, how you feel. I do think that if you want a brief rundown, Vegeta is great against, Vegeta is going to be fine into the mirror. Vegeta should be pretty great into yellow, because right now a yellow depends a lot. Like, yellow's draws almost all depend on their one drops right now, and that ends up being very easy for a yellow or for a blue deck to disrupt. Red is going to be interesting. I think that red and blue have a very, very interesting matchup. It's going to come a lot down to skill, but blue has some gas this set. Green, a lot of people don't want to hear this, but green isn't exactly any better than last set for blue. That's the vibes I'm kind of feeling right now. But like I said, I'm still testing. I'm testing like so much going into North Carolina, and I'm gonna put up a tier list soon, so you guys get ready for it. That being said, I'm gonna close out this video and real quick give a special thanks to the Realm of Xers that are the top tier in my Patreon. The Adnans, the APX Dofies, the Big Daddy Flapjacks, the Burars, the Professor Spezes, the Brycars, the Kevin Eyes, the Mario V's, and the Mr. Top Decks of the world. Thank you guys for giving me the extra oomph. Y'all might actually be paying for my new computer. So like literally thank you for allowing me to do what I do at a more comfortable rate. And I will see you guys in the next video, the next Patreon post, or the next social media post. Wherever you want to find me, you can find me. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.